Torsade de Pointes, French for twisting of the points, is a polymorphic ventricular tachycardia. So poly meaning many, morph meaning shape. So it's many shapes. This is in reference to the QRSs that form this pattern. So the QRSs are going to be different widths and they're going to be different heights or different amplitude. Now the hallmark pattern here is that you have these QRSs that go from tall to short, tall to short. So it creates this ribbon-like pattern. Now many times this can be confused with ventricular fibrillation, which actually doesn't have an isoelectric line that you can kind of draw and split the pattern in half. The baseline kind of wavers, right, with VF. So that's how you can kind of tell the difference between polymorphic VTAC, torsades, versus ventricular fibrillation. Now the difference between polymorphic and torsades, Torsade de Pointes is a polymorphic VTAC that more specifically has a prolonged QT interval, whereas polymorphic VTAC could be due to other causes. That's the difference between the two. Now, in terms of treatment, are they stable versus unstable? Stable in this case means that they're still talking to you, right? So they still have a pulse. If that's the case, you're going to give them mag sulfate. Unstable, you're going to defibrillate. So really all you need to know in terms of ACLS is this: how to recognize the rhythm and then treatment for stable versus unstable. I'm going to go into more detail now so you better understand the rhythm. Now, in terms of pathophysiology, this is going to be due to a prolonged QT interval. So when you have someone who's bradycardic, the heart rate, as it gets slower and slower, the QT interval gets longer and longer. Now, eventually it gets so long that one of the ectopic focus and the ventricles become irritable, right, because it's too slow. It fires, so now you have a PVC, and if that PVC lands on a T wave, more specifically on that relative refractory period, it's going to cause this particular rhythm, Torsade de Pointes. And if this is sustained, Torsade de Pointes, it's going to degenerate to VF or ventricular fibrillation. Now, in terms of the rate, 150 to 250 times per minute, there are no P waves, therefore there are no PR intervals. The QRSs are going to be wide, there's no ratio, and in terms of the rhythm, it's going to be wide and irregular. Now, this specific rhythm is in two different algorithms. So, cardiac arrest, so if the patient has no pulse and it looks like Torsade de Pointes, we don't call it Torsade de Pointes anymore. We now call it pulsus VTAC. So remember, what pulsus VTAC is: a wide, complex tachycardia with no associated pulse. Now, of course, the second algorithm that it's in is tachycardia algorithm. This is the one rhythm that you cannot synchronize cardiovert because the monitor cannot differentiate the R waves due to the bizarre looking QRSs.